Hey, my name's TC Burr. Welcome to Yet, a podcast created to encourage you to get your goal or idea out of your head and into reality. On this podcast, you'll hear stories, encouragements, tips, and ideas to help you write your book, start your business, launch your podcast, or whatever it is you hope to accomplish. Because it's not that you haven't done it, it's just that you haven't done it yet. Hey listeners, it's TC. Welcome to Yet. This is a podcast for people who have goals. Fitness goals, writing goals, business goals, financial goals, goals of any shape or size. And it's intended to encourage people to get started and to keep going. The most common time for many of us to set and start even thinking about goals is at the beginning of a new year. And it makes sense, right? There's lots of cultural momentum with goal setting around that time. And for a lot of us, it just feels like a new opportunity, a new day, a new chance to reset, recalibrate, refocus on our lives. But as a people, we're not very good at New Year's resolutions. In fact, a 2007 study from the University of Bristol involving about 3,000 people showed that 88% of those who set New Year's resolutions actually failed, even though 52% of that study's participants felt confident at the outset. Well, right off the bat, I can tell you that the 35 or so percent of people who were not confident of their success were doomed from the very beginning. But what about the rest of them? 88% failure rate. That's not great. But it gets worse. The University of Scranton did similar research, and they suggest that only 8% of people achieve their New Year's goals, which means that 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. I was blown away when I heard that number. Now, I was under no false pretenses that most people accomplish their goals. I knew that most don't succeed with their New Year's resolutions, but 92% failure, that's crazy. Most people don't even make it out of January with their goals, and 23%, according to the Scranton study, don't even make it out of the first week. Strava, a fitness tracking company, documented over 800 million user-logged activities in 2019, and they found that most people throw in the towel and quit on their goals by the second Friday in January, which they titled Quitter's Day. So, why is it that so many people fail on their New Year's resolutions? Well, I think there's a couple reasons for it. Number one, I think we all have this innate understanding that we can improve our lives. Some of us are more physically fit than others, more financially successful than others, and we're better at certain categories and certain things than other people. But even those of us who are at the top of our game still recognize that we have room for improvement. And we want to improve. That's part of being a human. You want to be the best that you can be. And so we have this desire to be better. And I think we get caught up in some of that cultural momentum. We fill ourselves with this false optimism and false hope that this is going to be the year. You've probably seen people post things like new year, new me. This is the time that it's all going to happen for me. And year after year after year, it just doesn't. So I think we get caught up in the moment. We get filled with this false optimism. The other kind of phenomenon that happens for a lot of us is it's the end of the year. And so work slows down. We're out of school. We don't have as many commitments as we do during the normal parts of the year. And it kind of feels like this weird no man's land where you've got lots of free time, which is good and bad because you can come up with a lot of great ideas and a lot of lofty expectations for what the new year is going to look like. But then once the calendar strikes January 1st, real life starts to begin again. I saw a meme the other day on the internet. Someone said, "Oh no, everybody's starting to circle back now." And that's kind of what it is. Like the kids are back in school, you're back at work. Everyone's kind of following up on those loose ends that they had left over from the past year. And now the responsibilities and the time commitments start to add up and you realize there's no way I can write for 8 hours a day or work on my business plan late into the night because I've got other things going on. It gets real. To borrow a line from the real world, things stop being polite and start being real. We realize we try to take on too much. And that's really the third reason I think why many of us fail at our goals is because our goals are too big, too much, too fast. So what do we do? Well, I have 3 thoughts, 3 ideas on how you might be able to find success with your goals. And they're pretty simple. They're helpful to me to organize them in this way. So I want to share them with you. Number 1, the first thing that you can use to help you accomplish your goal is this. Start small, think big. Now, I can't take credit for that quote. That's actually a Steve Jobs quote. He says, "Don't worry about too many things at once. Take a handful of simple things to begin with and then progress to more complex ones." So in order to accomplish any goal, it's going to take work, right? The best things in life you have to fight for and work for. And it's going to take some determination, some perseverance, and some willpower. I think a lot of people think about willpower like the way they think about blue eyes. You either are born with it or you're not. But that's not really what the research suggests. Roy Baumeister, who's a professor at Florida State University, says this. He says, just like a muscle, the amount of willpower you have at any given time rises and falls. And if you exercise it, it gets stronger. I love that idea. And I love that reality that as you start to exercise your willpower, you actually increase it and strengthen it. So start small. Start with a goal that you can accomplish. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says that when you're determining the size or complexity of a new habit, ask yourself, what can I stick to even on my worst day? Because let's face it, not every day is going to be fun. It's not always going to be easy. There are going to be some days that are more challenging than others. Some days when the pace and the schedule of your life just puts more constraints on you. You've got less time or less energy to go after your goals. So what can you successfully accomplish on those days? I don't know what type of driver you are, but I'm the type of driver who, if I have an appointment, a place I need to be at a specific time, I tend to budget a little bit of extra time to get there because I don't know what traffic's going to be like on the way there. I don't know if there's going to be construction on my route to get to my destination, and I don't know how many red or green lights I'm going to hit along the way. So I budget in a little extra time so that even if I hit every red light and I have to get rerouted because of an accident or construction, I still have a reasonable chance of making it on time. Not everybody's like that though. Some people say, I'm going to leave at the time where if I hit every single green light and no one's in front of me driving slowly and there's no other issues, I will arrive right on time. But more often than not, those people find themselves late for their appointments. I think that's a similar concept to what James Clear is talking about when you're figuring out what types of habits you want to take on. And really, all of our goals are going to be shaped and informed and achieved by the habits that we create. But he says when you're thinking about your habits, ask yourself, what am I going to be able to stick to even on my worst day? So if you have a writing goal, maybe don't set out to write 15 pages a day. Maybe your goal should be 15 words so that you know you can hit it. And by the way, if you are a writer, you know this to be true. Some days you sit down in front of your computer or in front of your notebook and your pencil, and the words just flow. You are filled with inspiration and motivation and ideas that day, and it's just like you can't stop writing. Ride that wave on those days, because they're not all going to be days like that. And some days you're going to show up and it'll be a challenge just to write one word. So take that advice, start small. Think big. Don't lose sight of the big vision, the why behind why you're doing what you're doing. But note that in the day-to-day, it's going to be the little steps, the little habits that get repeated, that accumulate over time and lead to big success. So, number 1, start small, think big. Number 2, the number 2 thing that I think you can use to help you achieve your goals is to track your progress. So, those habits that you decided you were going to take on, grade yourself on whether or not you're actually doing it. One of the things that I did when I started writing my book is I've got a big wall calendar next to my desk, and every day that I wrote, I put a little red dot on that day of the month so that over the course of time, I could look at that calendar and see one red dot after another, which signified I wrote that day. Now, some days I wrote 100 words. Some days I wrote 1,000 words, but either way, I gave myself credit for having written that day. And over time, this calendar got filled up with dots. And I saw my word count increase and increase and increase to the point where I finally had a fully completed manuscript of my first draft. And it never would have happened if I didn't track it visually. So I am a huge fan of whiteboards, planners, big calendars, sticky notes. I don't know what system works best for you, but visual tracking is so important because it reminds you and it underscores that you are accomplishing your goal and you are making progress. Especially if you're a creative person, sometimes it takes a long time to see the big result that you're looking for. That's true of business owners too. It can take a while to get where you ultimately want to go. But if you put in the work today and you track your progress, it can encourage you along the way. So number 1, start small, think big. Number 2, track your progress. Number 3, regularly evaluate your work. Now your calendar has days built in to help you do this. And you can choose to look back, say at the end of each month and say, I'm going to look at my calendar and see what type of progress I made over the past month. You can also do this at the end of the week if it makes sense for your goal. Depending on what it is you're working on, you might find some other cadence, but use what's already there. Use end of the month, end of the week. Those are just kind of natural rhythms that most of us already kind of work with anyway. So don't make it harder on yourself, but do check in on your progress. Look at your past month, your past week, your past day, and think, did I do the thing that I said I was going to do? And what did I like about it? What did I not like about it? The beautiful thing about this is at those different checkpoints, you have the ability to make changes. If you're not seeing the type of results that you want, and remember, give yourself some time, but if you're not seeing the type of results that you want, or things aren't as fun as you thought they might be, or they're not going the way you thought that they might, you have the freedom to make some changes. Now, I do want to encourage you to be careful here. Don't jump ship too early. Sometimes your goal is going to take some time to really come to fruition. So don't just start for a week and then realize, oh no, I hate this, I'm not going to do it anymore. That could just be fear talking. Give yourself a little bit of time. But if things aren't going the way that you expected or the way that you want them to, you have the ability to make some tweaks. You've tried it, now you can tweak it. And in rare cases, you can trash it. Be super careful with this one. Again, don't just give up if things get hard. But if you realize, you know what, this isn't really worth the investment to me anymore, I don't want to keep pursuing it, you do have that freedom. And don't view it as a failure. View it as lessons learned, a chance taken, and a personal growth for you. A quick recap on this episode: 3 things you can do to have more success with your goals. Number 1, start small and think big. Number 2, track your progress visually. And number 3, give yourself regular reviews and feel the freedom to make some tweaks along the way. Thank you to the so many people who have listened and rated and reviewed the shows. I really appreciate all the encouragement you've sent my way, and please keep it coming. If you have questions or guests you think I should bring on, I would love to connect. You can send me an email at yetpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, it's yetpodcast, and please rate and review the show on Apple and Spotify. It means so much, and it helps other people connect with these great stories, encouragements, tips, and ideas. I want to read to you a review that I got recently from Brittany R. She says, "Just press play. This is a good one. Awesome podcast with very good practical tips and encouragement to get going with your goals and ideas." Thank you so much, Brittany, and thanks to you for listening to this week's episode. Until next time, keep working on your goals, and I'll see you soon.